Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back and welcome to episode number 68 here of Freedom Matters Action Group. I'm your host, Krishna, and joining me tonight is the lovely Teresa. How are you, Teresa?
Very good, very well. It's already the end of February of 2023, so time is flying by, and a lot is always going on. So I swear we could have this conversation or a new conversation every day, and reveal more information. So hopefully people are still paying attention. Twitter's like off the hook, I guess. I'm not really a big Twitter fan, but I tell you what, there's a lot of information being relayed on it now. So my hopes are up a little bit just because more information is getting out in different ways, and so like we've tried getting information out through Rumble has been really great, and YouTube
Yeah,
not so great. I mean, we've been banned on YouTube so many times. Facebook
right.
bans you, they shadow ban you and everything. So it's we could be grateful for the things that we can share that are reaching people. So a lot more people are hearing about vaccine injuries and cardiac arrests are off the charts. So hopefully that will instigate some type of uprising against Pfizer. I know a lot of doctors are still working against that.
Right, as well as hopefully increase more hesitancy and resistance. And yeah,
yeah,
you bring a good point. Like, we could have these conversations every day. We certainly should, maybe not necessarily publicly on broadcast or a podcast like this, but certainly privately, even just amongst your family members, actually probably amongst your family members is the most impactful. But yeah, I
right.
mean, that's the like one of the fundamental themes we try to push here at Freedom Matters Action Group is to encourage people to have these conversations and regularly, habitually, not just like on a one-off or whenever you feel like it. Honestly,
And you know what? If you're the black sheep in the family talking about things that no one really wants to hear,
it's a good
just
thing, yeah, right? Yeah,
keep going because you're speaking truth, and truth always outweighs everything eventually. So, a lot of people, not really me. Um, I haven't really experienced the people telling me, well, I don't want to be your friend because you did this or you didn't do that. Luckily I haven't been able to experience that, but a lot of people have experienced like friendships completely like you can't come to my wedding because you're not vaccinated. Like some real crazy things have happened over the past 2.5, almost 3 years now, because of this pandemic. And so um, it's crazy. You got to keep on talking about everything and keep on being the truth teller from the information that at least.
yeah.
So
I
that's what we
recall.
try to do here at Freedom Matters Live here.
I
Try to
recall.
talk
I
to you.
recall when I was a little bit younger, and when I was trying to like pursue and date some girls, and I told her that. Well, I didn't tell her that I love Donald Trump because I would not say that I do, but I definitely made it clear that I don't hate him, and I certainly don't have a deranged hatred for him. And that yeah, I did vote for him in 2016. That was enough for her to like start hating me and no longer having interest in me. And I mean, that's sort of a blessing in disguise. I think that's the Lord's blessing, keeping me away from, quite frankly, for lack of a better way of putting it, the wrong women.
Yeah,
um,
that's true. That's true.
and, and it's pretty funny. Like a friend of mine recently, just over coffee, was saying that anytime he goes into a crowd, especially with people he doesn't really know well, like one of his favorite icebreakers is, and it's probably going to be mine too, and I look forward to applying it whenever I get the next opportunity. Just go up into a crowd of people you don't know too well or you're meeting for the first time, and the best icebreaker is just say Donald Trump, am I right? And then
See where
people, of
they
course,
go, right? See where
because
everybody
they're
goes.
going to them, other will be like, oh yeah, MAGA, that kind of thing. Maybe you'll have a few that'll be like, okay, and then you might have one or two if you're lucky that'll be like, I mean, are you right about what? But it's just hilarious that like they react pretty strongly one way or the other, just without even knowing what he even means or what he's even
Hmm.
saying.
Yeah. You can kind of change your tune a little bit too, because depending on what kind of crowd you're around, you don't want to have like a major, I don't know. There's so many people who are so aggressive against Donald Trump. So um, be
That's right.
careful
That's
if you
exactly.
do
If you
that. Be
happen to
careful
be,
for sure.
find yourself in a crowd of like Antifa folks or whatever, hopefully the non-violent ones,
Mm,
just be like Donald Trump, am I right?
yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's really funny. Speaking of which, I know it's not on the agenda for tonight, but I did see today that he went to East Palestine, Ohio, where they had that train wreck, and he
Yeah,
was actually there. I mean, you don't see the current
you know who
administration
wasn't
out
there
there.
other than me? Well, you know who wasn't there other than me?
Who's that?
Well, Joe Biden wasn't there. There was Pete Buttigieg. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name, but I
Yep.
mean, yeah,
Yep.
neither of them were there. I think Pete's going now, but yeah.
I
Sure,
know
I think
it's been a couple weeks though since that
I
happened
think
now. So
I think Joe's still in the air, probably flying over maybe England or like the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on his way back from
from
Ukraine.
Ukraine, yeah, like kissy facing over there with Zelensky, which I don't really understand his point of going over there. If it's so dangerous, why is he over there? You know what I mean? You're like the president.
Right.
Suppose it's a president of the United States. Why are you flying over to Ukraine? During this time. So that's kind of interesting. Well, we have a
Yeah.
really good show for you guys tonight. We have
Yeah.
several
So
things to
with
talk
all
about.
right, with all the trouble going on all the way there, we're going to focus here mostly in Austin, as the title is "Trouble in Austin," both in and out of the Capitol. For those who don't know, right now the legislative session is underway, as it is every odd year from January to February. But it's not just a legislative session that is troublesome and has some chaos. It's stuff outside the Capitol, which is what I actually wanted to lead with, and that's the like riots and like the street protests, if you could call them that, that have been going on. And I mean, yeah, it's just what incarnation is wrong with the city of Austin? It's like, oh yeah, they're run by Democrats and leftists, of course.
Yes, unfortunately. And I'll be in Austin in April, so I hope they get everything kind of taken care of before then. I've been to Austin several times. It's a great city. It's just unfortunate that the political realm of it is just terrible, and it's going to become one of those really bad democratic cities if they don't make some changes.
Well, I think it's already a pretty bad democratic city, but I mean, yeah, to your point, it's got like great, culture and a great musical vibe, and the saying of like "keep Austin weird," is sort of outdated because it's now, I mean, I guess a little too weird with all the Democrats and leftists running it, especially that radical mayor Steve Adler, who I think went on vacation to Cabo during like the COVID lockdowns and was telling everybody to stay in.
Hmm.
And then yeah, like they defunded the police, and now crime is rampant, like with all these riots. And I mean, this is why, folks, we say that cities run by Democrats are very very bad and dystopian. And Austin just proved that point yet again. And when you think about it, there none of the big cities that are not run by Democrats, let's say that are run by Republicans. I don't know how many that would be. Maybe Phoenix, Salt
Hmm.
Lake City, Utah, and Boise, Idaho. Okay, maybe Salt Lake City and Boise, Idaho don't qualify as big cities, but certainly the biggest in those states, and the biggest that are not run by Democrats and run by Republicans. They don't ever have riots or violence or like streets on fire. I mean,
Right.
this isn't rocket science, folks.
So I was talking to a sheriff in Houston a few weeks back, and he was explaining the reality of how their hands are tied with crime in Houston. I'm not sure if we talked about this before, but we're talking about just like some simple crime, like car theft, for example. Of course, car theft, you can have armed robbery with car theft. You can have just car theft without you being there. Tires, catalytic converters are still a hot ticket item on most cars, but they have 400 cars stolen every month in the city of Houston. And if you steal a catalytic converter, what they do to you if you get caught, you go down, you get booked. You might spend about 12 to 16 hours. You get bailed out, and then you promise to come back when your court date is. Now, if you get caught again in the time between your court hearing and the time that the time that you committed another crime, your new crime is now your new date. So then you get bailed out again, you get to leave, and then you have to come back on your new date, not the old date from the original crime. And it's just this continual thing. So
Right. So sorry. So hang on a second there. So like, so if you miss your court date, like they don't come after you, or they don't like send the police or the marshals to.
Not for those types of crimes, because you're really working on murders and rapes and things like that. I mean, they don't have the.
Car theft is pretty damn big too. I mean, it's gonna be,
It's
Grand Theft
huge.
Auto. Oh,
It's huge. I mean, you can imagine why insurance rates are going up for car insurance. Just those types
oh
of
yeah,
things
right,
alone.
right, yeah. Mine almost went up. Thankfully, Progressive was really nice and reasonable with me, and the guy, helped me actually get a lower rate than my last one. But yeah, I
That's
mean,
great, because we just switched from Geico to Progressive because Geico
okay, yeah,
increased our rates like 40%. And so we were like, yeah, we're not okay with that. Maybe a 10% increase. We understand inflation, but a 40% increase, yeah. So we just switched to Progressive too. So hopefully it's good. I mean, we've only been with them now for the month of February. So, but yeah, I mean,
folks, this is why cities run by Democrats, always go down the toilet. I mean, almost literally every single example. And it's like if they don't even punish folks for missing their court date, for a car theft. I mean, it's sort of like how they don't go after illegal immigrants that are caught that don't show up for their court date.
yep.
They don't go after them, and then soon enough they're like well within the state and long gone and hard to trace, and heck, they might even make it up north to like Missouri or whatever.
Yep, exactly, for sure. And one of the things that I would like to see is some changes, but it's not going to come unless there's some different leadership changes. So we have someone running for Houston mayor, correct?
Yeah, a friend of mine, as well as a liberty activist named Derek Rose, who runs who has his own website called theconsciousresistance.com. Yes, excuse me. And he's like pretty active in the liberty activism community, running Freedom Cells, and I am a member of the Houston Freedom Cell. And as I mentioned, he's a good friend of mine, and yes, he has officially decided to run for this election, as he did the last time around in 2019, to try to get rid of the god awful Mayor Turner.
Yeah, I see him on here on Ballotpedia, which
Yep.
sometimes they have some information. If the candidate actually updates their information, you can go to Ballotpedia and read a little bit about your candidates. So I see his name on here. Do we have any information about him?
Well, I mean, other than what I had just mentioned.
Yep.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more picky there. Let me show.
Yeah.
So
But
this
one thing
is last year, or the last
here.
election. This is the last election's information. So just how far the race was. So you had. Oh wait, sorry, that was not it. Because he's running against Sylvester Turner, right?
Right.
Okay, the wrong one. I got to look again. Sorry, Krishna, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I remember him once saying at a gathering with some friends that apparently in the last election only 200,000 people voted in the city of Houston, a city of like a little north of 2 million, maybe. Yeah, and so it's like 10% voter turnout. It's just very astonishing that the people of Houston apparently don't seem to care about who their mayor is, and it also indicates that Turner might not actually be very popular, despite the fact that he won the election. Because I mean, even if let's say he got all those 200,000 votes of the total number of people who voted, that would still not be the majority of the city. So yeah, I mean, that's a sign for the people of Houston who didn't vote to like get active and vote for the opposition, unless they can't suppress their inner masochists to continue being under the rule of the lovely Sylvester Turner.
Right, and so it was almost 112,000 that Sylvester Turner was able to get. So I was looking. I thought I had the wrong page here, but Derek Rose is actually on here as nonpartisan, and he only had at the time 686 votes. So we need more interviews for him.
Like
we need
corporate funding or any.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's not going to have those big donors, right? So let's find out about him and support him if he has your same values, and and go for it for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have him on the show.
Right. I have invited him. So yeah.
Maybe in March.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's got to be in March at the earliest, but yeah.
Yes, if you haven't noticed, friends, we have only been doing the show once a month now. So we have some, like Krishna said before, we have some legislative sessions. So there was one bill that was filed to ban Chinese, Russian, North Korean, and Iranian entities from buying land in Texas.
That's correct. Yeah, and the bill was not yet officially filed, I don't believe, but I learned about this on a tweet that Governor Abbott had shared, and that's what I'm sharing right now. And can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So according to this tweet that I discovered a little bit, maybe about a week ago, maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, I saw this on Twitter that, yeah, as it says, the bill has been filed in the legislature to ban citizens or governments or entities of China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia from purchasing Texas land, and Abbott plans to sign it. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm very, very ecstatic that he's doing it, and certainly it's long overdue, because I think people fail like appreciate at least as much as they should that at least China, North Korea, and Russia, probably not so much Iran, but definitely China, North Korea, and Russia are existential enemies to the United States, and they want to rule the entire world, and part of that means conquering and destroying the United States. Especially with regards to China, I know this for sure, as per the speech that was given by General Gao Xian back in 2003, and he was China's top general. And this speech was not like ever meant to be leaked, but it was, where he does talk about how China's ambition is to rule the world, and in order to do that, they have to conquer the United States, which they plan to do. And here's the link to the speech. I'll share it. And one thing that really boiled my blood, more than what usually what usually does, is that General Hao Shan talks about how unlike the Nazis in Germany, who he calls weak, we will not be weak. We, mean the Chinese, will not be weak, and we will be ruthless. And he uses that word ruthless, or at least whatever the Mandarin word for ruthless is. So yeah, I'm definitely very glad that Governor Abbott is for signing this bill to do that, and I hope the legislature does its part in voting yes to the bill to get it to his desk.
Right, I can agree. And one person who's local, KP George, had actually called for a rally against this right here in Fort Bend County. I haven't heard anything that came out of that. That was supposed to be on January 20th. There's a couple news articles about it, but I think the gathering was quite small. But if I go to, let's say, the UK, am I able to buy land there? Most countries have the same type of laws against non-citizens or even people
you can't buy land in
citizens.
Russia or North Korea.
Right.
So I don't think anybody in North Korea can buy land except for Kim and his best buddies. But yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I understand that when we had the freeze here last year in February, there were some issues with the actual turbines, right? The windmills.
Yeah.
And I had heard that was actually a Chinese run, like CCP, not Chinese people, but a Chinese run, and so we want to kind of make sure that we're running our own things here, and that we're not allowing other countries, basically the people from other countries, to buy up our land, because that's how they kind of take out over, right? And if they can afford the higher rates, you're going to increase our interest rate, not interest rate. So you're going to increase the value of the homes, pretty much keeping us to where we can't buy anything for just everyday regular people. So if you're getting all of this money funneling in from other entities that really want to take over, like the George Soros or the CCP or something like that, you're going to have the issues. It's not like your everyday citizen that is your next door neighbor. We're not talking about them, although they're probably going to be affected in one way or another. But we just still have to protect our resources here, because some other countries, they want your resources, just like we have gone to other countries to grab their resources and under the guise of, security and weapons of mass destruction and things like that. So we don't want that to happen here. So I can applaud Abbott for doing that for sure.
And every other state should be doing it. And yeah, I mean, if you want to buy land in Texas or the United States, then become a citizen of the country. Learn and appreciate and respect our cultural values like the Bill of Rights and liberty and defending fundamental rights at all costs and under all circumstances. And then yeah, you're welcome to buy property as is your right. But become a U.S. citizen and cut off all your citizenship and ties to foreign countries that have hell-bent ambitions to conquer us and, quite frankly, establish their version of the New World Order.
Right.
Yeah, not to mention, you mentioned the wind turbines. Not to mention, first of all, I don't think we even stockpile backup generators in case of power outages. But the generators that we do have are also made in China.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, thankfully, my representative Steve Toth, supports the bill and plans to vote for it. So, if yours does not, first of all, call and find out if yours does or doesn't, and if he doesn't, pound the table for him or her, to vote yes for it.
Mm-hmm. So I've seen a lot of things on Abbott's Twitter. He's been quite Twitter happy, I guess, recently.
Right.
He's also saying that he'll cut Texas property taxes using the $15 billion in taxes that we have a surplus in. I'm really wondering how that's going to work, because it's almost like, and I believe the surplus, correct me if I'm wrong, is because we've had such an influx of people moving here. So we've been able to generate, we've been able to do quite well even after and through the pandemic and all the closures and everything, because we didn't stay closed like some of the other states. So we were able to attract more people to come here from other states who had such tyranny and mandates and lockdowns and just crazy health ill advisories, right? So I would love to see taxes cut for sure.
I did see it. Yeah, ditto. Yeah. Well, yeah, I did see that tweet, and interestingly, it kind of reminds me back during the primary election when Don Huffines, Alan West, and even Chad Prather were asked how they were going to, cut the property taxes, even bring it down to zero. I remember Alan West had talked about, and I liked his response the best, about the sunset budget, or rather sunsetting programs that would enable the government to cut property taxes without losing too much revenue. And he was mentioning that they keep trying to, and they keep talking about sunsetting a lot of these government programs that bleed the budget, but they never do it. And so he was pounding the table about how he would do it if he was elected. But of course, he wasn't, of course. And then regarding Huffines, he actually responded to Abbott's tweet about it, and I forgot exactly what Huffines had all said, but I think he had a link actually to his website detailing his plan and telling Abbott that he should adopt that.
Yeah, I'm all for tax relief because everything else has been increasing quite a bit. And I know that everyone feels it in their pocketbook, but I just went yesterday to Cane's and bought what used to be a $10 meal. It was now $16 and change for a combo meal at a chicken place. So it's just chicken, fries, you get a little coleslaw and a piece of bread and a drink, $16 and change. And I was like, wow, I haven't been here in such a long time. I didn't realize it increased $5, from just a year ago. And I know everyone is feeling the inflation for sure. So if you could get a little relief from taxes, if you could eliminate property taxes altogether, I mean, man, that would be really great. And then you got to work on healthcare, because healthcare is the biggest scam out there.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing about property taxes is that people that don't own property property have to understand is that, even though, yeah, if you don't own property, it's easy to be tempted to think, well, property tax reduction is not going to benefit me, or, property taxes, even if they went up or were not to, change at all, wouldn't affect me. But that's very untrue, because if you're renting, your landlord's rent that he charges you, part of that is influenced by the property tax. So if the property tax goes up, that means your rent's probably going to go up too, or there's risk that your rent could go up. Whereas if the property taxes were to go down or zero, your landlord has less expense that he has to cover, so that there's an opportunity or the auspice that your rent could go down or could not go up. That's why even for those who own property taxes are definitely things that you should advocate and be in support of. Property tax reduction, excuse me.
Yeah, I just want to let you know your audio and video are kind of cutting in and out a little bit from time to time, just to let you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go out and come right back in, maybe reset it or something, but I'll wait for you if you're going to do
yeah,
that.
let me try that. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Stand by.
Okay, no worries. We'll let Krishna take care of the audio there. I'm just going to be right back, and we'll continue.
Okay, sorry. Is it okay now, or?
It's still a little bit grainy, like I can't see your face very well in my picture here. It's kind of freezing. Yeah, it's kind of freezing up just a little bit.
When I use like my browser for other stuff, it's loading just fine. But okay, but how about now? Is it okay now, or?
No, still.
Okay, let me try.
You're kind of frozen, yeah.
Okay, let me try going off camera and see if that is up to
Okay, sure. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Senate Bill 700. Yeah, so this is something that is kind of hot off the press, I would say, new. This is Senate Bill 700, and this is basically a bill to be enacted by, I guess it was Senator Sarah Eckert, and she's a Democrat. She has, I believe, has proposed bills like this before. I'm going to share it because she's talking about wanting to basically make school boards, if there's a mandate, you either follow this one or you follow this one. So I'll read this. It'll make more sense here in a second. I did not explain that very well. So relating to the implementation of public schools of certain communicable disease public health orders issued by a health authority to be enacted by the legislature of Texas. This is basically requiring implementation of certain communicable diseases. And that means has a meanings assigned by section 81.003 health and safety code. So we're talking about mandates, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all the health protocols that we had at our schools back in 2020, 2021, even though Abbott had eliminated our mask mandates back in March of 2021, the school systems still mandated it through the end of the school year until June 5th or June 6th, whatever that date was. And so this bill is basically saying a school district shall implement or otherwise comply with health directives outlined in a public health. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, Krishna.
Oh, okay. But can you actually hear? Can you like hear me well enough though? Or?
I can hear you better now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
So cut it off.
No worries. Yeah, you sound much better now. So a school district shall implement or otherwise comply with.
I guess I was trying to do my John Fetterman impression,
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I do feel bad for the guy. Like, I guess he was back in the hospital. Yes. I feel bad for the guy. He's being used for sure. He's just a puppet.
Like almost all of them, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no one in their right mind would actually vote for him. I mean, a pity vote here and there, yeah, but no one really voted for him to be in office, to be an elected official, to actually carry out the duties for the state of Pennsylvania. I can't believe that. But um, anyway, the school districts shall implement or otherwise comply with health directives outlined in a public health order issued by a health authority with jurisdiction over territory in which the district is wholly or partly located regarding evidence-based practices. Well, let me stop you right there. Evidence-based practices is what they're trying to say they implemented with all the COVID regulations, right? The CDC, the FDA, all of those supposed authorities that we now know are completely corrupted, because we now have over 16,000 people who have been reported to have died after getting the COVID vaccine. And that's just, Dr. McCullough says, multiply that by 30, because no one really reports. And I know I'm kind of going off a little bit here, but no one really reports on VAERS because it takes about 30 minutes for each patient that you have to report on. You have to get their name, you have to put their email address, you have to type in, and there's like, like any government, made entity or made documentation that you have to fill out. It's always a lot of work and no one wants to do it. And you have to, if you say something in there, you have the risk of perjury if you're reporting incorrectly. So if you make a little mistake, then they could come after you, right? So what some doctors don't even want to bother with it.
Yeah, right. I mean, and also, like, if you take the jab and you die and you have no friends or family to report your death, you can't report it because you're not living anymore. So yeah, those are, I'm sure, definitely not being reported, and there's not a way of knowing how many those are.
There was a doctor I just saw today. He there was a meeting in Sarasota, Florida, and he was basically saying, "Hey, I have doctors, I have cardiologists, radiologists, pediatricians, all these doctors calling me when they get sick, wanting ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, but they won't prescribe it for their own patients because they're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of losing
getting their license revoked, or
license.
like getting called into a stressful hearing. Yeah, dealing with
exactly
office politics. Yeah.
So you have to stand up, because if you stand up as a group, you're going to be undefeated, because the group is going to continue to grow and grow. And it's right now it's slowly growing because it was such a small number of people who were fighting back. But if you have your entire team there and supporting you, I mean, there's so much that we can have done if people would just stand up and do the right thing. But fear takes over. Fear is such a big enemy for people. And I get it. I totally get it. I mean, no one wants to lose their job. But at the same time, man, you could do so much with your voice.
Right. Yeah. Or kind of. Oh, sorry. Well,
sorry.
So, or it kind of also reminds me of Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski, who invented a cure for cancer called the anti-neoplastins. But I mean, yeah, all the health authorities and even the government at the FDA like went after him and like harassed him like crazy, even though almost every patient, if not every single patient of his he treated, got cured of cancer very easily. And even folks that were told that, sorry, your kid has terminal cancer, we can't do anything about it, went to Brzezinski's anti-neoplastin treatment, and it worked. And I mean, Brzezinski is located here in Houston, Texas. Yep. So yeah.
I wondered about that because I saw that documentary about him, and they basically put him through litigation and took all of his money, because you have to, in order to fight back, you have to go to court. They took him to court for everything. I mean, he lost all of the money that he did make as a doctor through litigation, just trying to fight back. And I don't know exactly where he's at now and what he's doing now, because that was.
I think he still has his practice. I'm not totally sure, but
okay.
I mean, yeah,
I hope so, because he was
with all that he went through, and this was like back in the 90s, before like really even the internet. I can only imagine what he's thinking, and and saying now, seeing all the horrors and garbage that we've gone through with this COVID psyop.
Right, for sure. Well, the other thing that this bill, Senate Bill 700, I'm getting a little bit of feedback again.
I
That's better.
don't know what I can do. Yeah.
I think it's better now. It says if two or more health authorities with jurisdiction over territory in which a school district is wholly or partly located issue public health orders with conflicting health directives, the Board of Trustees of the district may select which health authority's public health order the district will implement or otherwise comply with. That's a little bit better than saying you just have to kind of go with whatever the CDC is saying, but it's still, we don't even need that.
It's
the Board
right.
of
It's still not as good as
Education
not having this law at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do we need this there if that's the case? Like I could pick this one or this one or this one or this one. Why do we need this in place? There's something more to it that probably in the details somewhere. This is just a summary
the
of it.
details, but yeah, I mean, if this law is not protecting our fundamental rights, then it should not be law.
Mm-hmm. So Sarah Eckert, she is obviously she's in Austin. She's part of the Democratic Party. She's been a Texas senator since 2020, and hopefully
I'm assuming she's a Democrat as well.
She's a Democrat. Yep. She used to be, it says that she used to be a county judge for Travis County. So I would love to kind of,
so yeah.
Yep. I would love to kind of dig in a little bit more and find out what type of judge was she? What type of county judge was she? And what were the policies that she made? Because she was a county judge before she became a senator. That wasn't too long ago. It was only 2.5 years ago. So be interesting to see.
Yeah, indeed.
Another thing that happened in Austin is I know there's some controversy with Steven Crowder and the Daily Mail and all that.
The Daily Wire.
Daily Wire. Thank you. I am not going to listen to all that noise, but I've listened to some of his podcasts before. He's really funny. There's a lot of
I mean, he puts out great work, and he does really great stuff, especially his Change My Mind segments, which I think is what you're about to discuss. But I mean, like the way he handled the private negotiations, or what should have been private negotiations with Daily Wire, was definitely wrong. This was a big mistake he made, but I mean, certainly that doesn't discredit the other, the good work that he has done, which is not connected or related to his misdeeds with the Daily Wire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I still don't understand the full details of all of that, because I'm like, okay, well, you didn't do this deal. They say this, they say that. It's kind of like, okay, this is middle school where he said, I'm going to break up with you.
Right.
To me, it's like that was over $100 million deal that he
and Crowder didn't like that. If he was to get banned on YouTube, that his pay would get cut. But I mean, if he gets banned on YouTube, Daily Wire doesn't make money, so they can't pay him as much. And then I think he asked for more money, or for them to get rid of that, and the Daily Wire said, no, we can't do it. And then Crowder made that public, which was wrong, because these are private negotiations and private conversations, and no permission was given to have that released. And it's also very unprofessional and very damaging towards the trust and friendship he had built with the Daily Wire. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm a fan of the Daily Wire, they are like fake conservatives, but I mean, it's this is a business negotiation, and you negotiate. And if you don't like what Daily Wire has to offer, then you try to negotiate with it, or you make do without it. You don't bring it public and honestly, quite frankly, cry about it on a public forum, especially without any permission from the Daily Wire.
Mm-hmm. I know that they had released some statements or something first, maybe. I don't know, because the one part that I watched him kind of rebuttaling what they had already said, and I guess he was just trying to say, this is not exactly what happened. I have the audio recording of the meeting that I had, and I listened to that, but I didn't really hear the side of Daily Wire. So like I said, I kind of just listened a little bit and then said, you know what? I'm done with that noise. I'm just going to move on. But I do like his show, like we were talking about, his Change My Mind. So if you haven't seen Steven Crowder, what he's famous for, some of his podcasts, is he'll go set up a table at a very liberal, or a very, I guess you could say liberal college, and he'll put out, okay, he makes some kind of controversial statement and says, change my mind about it. So in this one, it is it's the segment, affirmative action is racist, change my mind. And I really like his conversation that he had with one of the UT students, very bright young lady. And he says a lot of things. So this is going to be a couple minutes long. But I thought that it was really important. So I'm actually going to kind of skip through some of it because it's a little bit longer than I thought.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
But I'll just play it from the 14. I'll kind of summarize what he's talking to her about. He's basically saying, and then I'll play the last 2 minutes of it. He's kind of telling her some facts about how, and asking her questions. Do you think affirmative action has helped? Why do you think affirmative action should exist? And she has some good responses. You know, she kind of talks about, well, I didn't have a good opportunity in my hometown. I don't know if I would have gotten into UT had it not been for affirmative action. And but then she goes on to explain, hey, I worked really hard. And he asks her, well, what about if they would have said, no, you can't get into UT, and said, why don't you go to get more information on your resume to kind of build up your resume and things that you should have had the opportunity to do it now while you're an adult, go to a community college, you know, get your resume. Yeah. She's like, I would have done that 110%. And so he's trying to kind of tell her, like, it's based on your merit and your drive, not your skin color. And so I'll play just a couple minutes.
That's right.
So
I
really like what he says, because I mean, everybody is like afraid of saying, oh yeah, you know, I don't really want to hold anyone down for like having a bad, you know, school, a bad high school, or being in a immigrant or I guess a minority neighborhood. Well, I grew up very poor too, but because I didn't base my merit on my skin color. I was just really, really working hard. And it took me a lot to kind of overcome the fact that I was like, I didn't feel like I could do something because I was poor, or I didn't have the opportunities either. But here I have like 2 master's degrees and I have a bachelor's degree because I wanted to work hard. And anybody has that opportunity. It's not based on your skin color. It's based on your drive. It's based on your character, like Martin Luther King Jr. said. It's based on your character, not your skin color. And so many people are so wrapped up in the skin color craze. And he even goes in to talk about how the Chinese, if you're trying to get into Harvard, for example, if you're Chinese, you have to get a higher SAT score. And if you're white, you could get a lower.
Right. Or even if you're Indian, like
African American or Black,
at least,
you could get a lower score. So it's kind of like, well, wait a second, how is someone else getting in on a lower? It should be a range. I completely agree. But
did you see if he asked any of them? Well, what if, like, you know, me and like all the other white people identify as minority? You know, would that be cool if we all then went and applied for affirmative action? If every applicant did that.
Right, exactly. No, he didn't ask that, but he kind of
next time, maybe the next time he does that. Yeah.
I'm hoping this little segment, because it was going to be a little bit longer, I'm hoping this segment that I'm pulling out is where he talks about the reason why, the main reason statistically why they say that the Black community since the 1960s have gradually changed into actually having less people go to college, and there's a reason for it. And this is super important. It's the moral value of the home, of the household, your foundation, and your and your community and your family dynamic. So that's what it's really about. And so he goes on to talk about later on how government programming doesn't focus on the real issues, the family dynamics, the family, and building the family up, and building the family, making sure the family is a unit. Instead, they throw money out, causing more single women, single parents.
That's right, single mothers. So, fatherless households. And I mean,
like the decades.
The decades between the end of the Civil War and up to the rise of Martin Luther King Jr., Black poverty was going, down and down and down. And Thomas Sowell does a very brilliant like commentary about this. And but after the '60s, after Martin Luther King Jr. got a lot of the things that he was advocating, poverty's been on the rise in the Black community.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll take a look here. Hold on. I always forget to do that. I don't know why. Oh, it already is in there. Okay. I always forget the audio, but I already had it. So here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is at the 14-minute mark, and you can find it on YouTube. I just typed in affirmative action is, or Stephen Crowder, affirmative action, changed my mind, and that came up. So there's their title. There we go. But the whole segment is really good to listen to.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
They will perform better, that it will equalize the economic disparity. And it sounds to me like what you're talking about is not so much a racial disparity, but an economic one from a rural area.
Yes.
It sounds almost like you're making a case against affirmative action as it stands based on race, but the idea of providing resources to those of lower socioeconomic status. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, but isn't those, I don't want to sound
Racist?
but isn't those
It's okay, it's just you and I.
isn't those of low socioeconomic status usually minorities?
Often, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. A big part of that is because of a 77% single household rate with Black Americans. Asian Americans actually make more than white Americans on average, and they actually are harmed by affirmative action. I don't know if you're aware of this, but with the Harvard lawsuit,
Yes, the personality trait.
they're very racist against Asians on the personality, and the reason for that is because they tend to score higher. So, for example, in Harvard, with these documents that were released, on average, an Asian American applicant would have to score 1,300 on the SATs. A white American student, 1,350. A white American student would have to score 1,310 on average. A Black American student would have to score 1,100. Does that seem right to you? Because many of those Asian Americans also come from families where they're gas station owners or bodega owners. Does it seem fair to you to exclude people based exclusively on race rather than academic performance, especially as someone who's performed so well academically?
No, I mean, if you worked hard, you should be able to go to any college.
Right.
It's just, I don't know.
Did you work hard?
Oh, yes, sir, I did.
And you wanted to go to UT?
Yes, sir, I did.
That makes me happy. That's what I want to see.
It's just,
And I don't want to see it because you go here because you're Black.
yeah.
I want you to know that it's because you worked hard. And to me, that's a racism of soft expectations. Imagine if you're a Black student who didn't score so well, right? Had a lower SAT score, didn't score so well, and you know that you're in the university as a diversity applicant. That's self-doubt, and that's what I'm saying. I don't want you to have it. To me, it seems so sad to have for the rest of your life to go, man, did I really deserve this spot? Or was it because of the color of my skin? And I think that's why we see detrimental effects. Black Americans, because of it. Hold on, don't move. There's a spot.
Okay. So I probably talked a little bit more about what he actually said than what he did in that small segment there. But he basically gives the statistics that back in the 60s, before they started this giving out money to these lower economic status communities, like they were starting to give, I guess, welfare to families. My parents were a welfare recipient myself. I mean, a lot of the years that I was growing up, we were on welfare too. It's like an incentive though. Like if you're a single woman and you have kids, you get more money. I'm not sure what the dynamics of that is now, because I know it's changed over the years, but that changed the dynamics of the family household, and you're making money off of having children. Well, there you go. You have that family unit that's no longer tight. And she was actually from Ethiopia, and they have a very tight family. Yeah. And he asked her, like, were your parents together? And she said yes. And they are actually divorced now, but they were gas station owners in a very small rural area here in Texas. And so that's UT right there in Austin. That lady was very, I think her name was Tina. She was very sweet, and she worked hard to get there, but she doubts if she actually made it based on her merit or because it was her skin color. And that was basically what he was saying, is like, if you are letting someone in based on their, you're judging them based on their skin color, not their merits, then that's racist. So I mean, I really like him, but what
Oh,
brought me
absolutely.
to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
looking at that again was the fact that Abbott again did something with diversity. He basically sent a letter, I guess, to a lot of the universities and businesses here in Texas and said, you know what, hiring, make sure you're really doing a good job on your hiring expectations and you're not hiring based on color of your skin. And so Texas Tech, this is their response. They actually responded to Governor Abbott. I'll share that too.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Texas Tech reviews its hiring practices as efforts to promote diversity come under fire. So they're saying basically, if you're promoting diversity, you're hiring people not based on their merit. That's not going to make your business any better if you're just looking at the color of someone's skin or their background. You need to look at their merit. How are they going to help your business? I mean, that's not discrimination. That's just wanting to have your
Right.
business thrive and strive. So they did respond to Governor Abbott. This was back in early February, and they basically said that they're going to look through and reevaluate how they're actually admitting people. So I thought that was good. You can go read that.
Okay.
That's the Texas
Yeah.
Tech
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Right. No, they're definitely saying the sweet words. So we'll see if they follow up with sweet actions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I know that, man, there's a lot of information that's been coming out on masks. There's a new study now that's basically saying what we've known all along, and teachers know it too. I mean, you've got these people who are teachers, and I mean, I would say like 99%, maybe 95%, 95 to 99% of teachers that I've seen, they know for sure that these masks are just ridiculous. They never worked from the very beginning. And so there was this one recent study that basically said, you know, there's no scientific proof that masks will work against any kind of virus is too small. I mean, it's the same thing that we've known for so long. Why do they have to still go back and do all these
Right, yeah.
new studies? I mean, the studies have already been there since like 1918 flu, because of the 1918 flu, you know? So in the 80s, they knew that these masks did not work because why would there not be masks? Because it didn't work. I mean, they had this outbreak of the Spanish flu and they wore all these masks. Why wouldn't they have worn them? And we would have continued to wear them year after year after year for like cold season and flu season to not spread it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Viruses are too small to be blocked by masks.
Right. And even they were even talking about the N95s and the KN95s that they don't really work either. So it's a good study. It's by the freebeacon.com.
Yep. Yep.
Also, I find it really interesting that the Biden administration, and I don't know if we said this before the last show in January, but they're waiting until May 11th. I think this came out after our last show. They're waiting until May 11th to actually lift the emergency on COVID. So we had the emergency declaration back in 2020 when COVID was a pandemic, and it's still been there. And every 3 months or so, they just keep renewing and keep pushing the date back. And I'm like, why May 11th of all days? Are they waiting for
Yeah,
the
I know, right?
flu season to be over? Because flu happens all year. And you just hear about it more during the school season because kids are in school. But flu, you could get it any time of the year.
Yeah,
So
I mean, who wants to bet that they'll actually extend that and not end it on May 11th?
I know, that's what I'm thinking too, because I'm like, why May 11th? And this was something that they said back in January. I think it was January 20th, January.
And I think
31st.
they were saying that they would have ended it, even before that. But again, they keep extending it. And even here in Texas, Governor Abbott has still kept the COVID-19 emergency status still intact. Though I did read somewhere that apparently the reason he's doing it is because him keeping the COVID-19 emergency status intact prevents like the cities and counties from doing it. Basically, like his authority as the top state executive can override theirs. I guess that's the line of sort of legal logic, if you
Oh.
will. I don't know how much I really buy that, or if there's more to it than that. But I mean, yeah, I mean,
That
the
does
fact
make
that
sense.
anybody,
Yeah, because
well, does it
when
really? Okay.
he came out, it was like 50-50, just like everything, like politics and everything. Everything's like half the people like this and half the people think that, and then they just go at it, right? No, I do
Right.
remember when he lifted all the mask mandates back in March of 2021. I mean, there was so much animosity towards him from the people who just wanted to continue wearing the masks and they were afraid. So I could totally see where, even Fort Bend, I mean, and some other surrounding like Houston ISD, Katy ISD, Lamar, I don't think really wanted to continue keeping the masks on the kids, but all these districts were fighting the governor, trying to impose these masks still on the kids, even though he had already lifted it. So I could kind of see if he's afraid that these little towns and big cities will just, make up their own rules and then enforce those masks and things like that legally. Maybe they could. That's a good point.
Okay, besides, so maybe there's some like redeeming quality to it then.
Yeah, I mean, it does make more sense than what I was thinking. I was like, why? You never know why, right? So the decision to sunset the PHE is a testament to the progress we've made, but the progress should not end with the PHE. We should preserve many of the best care innovations that served us well during the pandemic. Well, let's go through what really helped during the pandemic. Shutdowns, did those help anything? No. Did masks help anything? No.
No,
Did the vaccine help anything? It only gave people the confidence to go back out in public,
neither
even
did the
though
COVID tests
and the COVID tests. The COVID tests were
or the
fraud.
ventilators
The ventilators killed 84% of the people who were on them here in the state of Texas. So
or remdesivir.
remdesivir, okay. Blocking ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, did that work?
Sure didn't.
Trying to discredit those medical professionals like Stella Emanuel and Dr. McCullough and Dr.
Yeah.
Urso and all of these frontline doctors right here from Texas. Any of that help? No, none of it helped. None of it really
Sure didn't.
affected anything. Everything that was imposed actually hurt the economy, actually hurt small businesses. And yes, some of the small businesses got, the PPE money. And they were able to apply for grants, but there was so much fraud.
A lot of big corporations, fraudulent.
Yes.
Small businesses did too. Yeah.
I think it's in the billions of dollars that they don't know where it went for that COVID money. That were our taxpayer dollars, billions of dollars. They don't know. They can't account for. So I don't know if Congress is going to go, doing an audit on all the money and where it went. I don't know if anything's really going to come out of that, but none of those protocols actually worked.
Yeah, I doubt they will, and if they ever do, they'll. Oh, sorry. I think there's continuing lag in my audio, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't think they will do an audit, and if they ever do, they'll do it, and they'll say they found nothing.
Well, and the other thing that I read, the Epic Times, they posted that the U.S. government, this came out today, U.S. government received $400 million in COVID-19 vaccine royalty payments. So if you're wondering why your hamburger joint down the street was giving you free hamburgers, or you're getting a free crispy, cream donut for getting the vaccine, well, I mean, they had a lot of money given to them for PR. And they didn't really care about your health. It was not about health and safety. It was about money. I mean, it's very clear for some of these entities, and our government, unfortunately, included. So it says Moderna said today that it recently reached a patent agreement with the U.S. government over disputed technology that is featured in its COVID-19 vaccine. That would be mRNA technology. That's why a lot of people will call it a gene therapy, not a vaccine, because vaccines don't go into your DNA and change it. December of last year, Moderna entered a non-exclusive patent license agreement with the with the NIAID, basically, and during an earnings call on Thursday, because again, it's all about earnings. It's about how much money are we going to get
All
out
about
of this,
the money.
out
Yeah.
of all these people. We're going to make money on the masks. We're going to make money on the vaccine. We're going to make money on
The
All of
ventilators.
all of the ventilators. We're going to make money on. I mean, was it $10,000 per patient that was put on a ventilator that they got?
39,000.
Oh, 39,000. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
More than a lot of people make in a year. Yeah.
And you know, my brother-in-law, when he was in the hospital, no one's paying his bills. Him and his wife are going to have to pay the bills. No one's paying the COVID bills there. So where's the hospitals are probably getting like double money from the government for putting on, and then you're going to still charge the patient too. So they've the NIH did not respond for requests of comment, of course, about this. And the Epic Times, which
Gee,
a lot
what
of
a
people
surprise.
are, they are now, a lot of people are doing this, getting a Freedom of Information Act requests for the agreement so they can actually read it. But the problem with the FOIAs, as they call them, is that when they release stuff now, they black out so much. You know, they redact so much.
Yeah,
of it that
right.
You don't really know. It's like, what's the point? Everything should be
It's a
free for
sham
everyone
release,
to
yeah.
see. Yeah, everything should
right,
be
yeah.
free and out there for everyone to see. So, I mean, if you wonder why, again, they were doing lotteries in California. Spin a wheel, you'll win $1 million if you get a vaccine. I was like, this is nuts. This is nuts. They had to work so hard to get so many
Yeah.
people, you know, vaccinated. So
Right. And they still haven't been able to get, you know, about like 35% of people that, you know, resisted any of them.
yeah. Yeah, I know at least 50% of people just went out and took it because they were, you know, they thought that was the right thing to do. They were, and then I think it was like another 20% of the rest of the population might have gone out. Not to say it's 70% total that got vaccinated. I don't know exactly what the total numbers are. I've heard that the government is tracking like who's been vaccinated and who's not. They were doing that up in New York City and stuff. I was like crazy. So they were basically tracking all the teachers in New York City. I'm sure they're doing it in every state, and putting like a mark in your record if you're not vaccinated as a, you know, I don't know if it would have gotten any worse. I'm going to assume that it would have been a lot worse had it not been for people like us and people like doctors that were standing up against all of this, and, you know, freedom fighters, just a regular, everyday, common people that were like, no, there's something wrong here. You're not impeding on my freedoms here. But, you know, one thing that I was kind of curious too, we were talking about Abbott before, and how he wants to use that excess money maybe to reduce taxes. That would be really great. Because our taxes go up almost every year, about 10% on our property. But, you know, I guess it's the big push of like, what do we do with all this money that we have left over? So one of the state representatives, Crenshaw, which we know that he's not really a Republican, even though he's a rhino for sure. But I believe, I'm going to double check here. I believe it was proposed by Dan Crenshaw, proposing that $15,000 increase for teacher salary. Okay, so I want to comment on this because I'm an educator. And although I would love to see $15,000 pay raise, right? Okay, but here's the problem with that. Okay, and I didn't see anywhere in this information, as far as what I was able to find, that it's just a one-time deal. So this was back in January, the end of January. It says, Texas teachers to see largest pay raise in history if new bill passes. So this bill, if it passes, we're going to get a $15,000 pay increase for teachers. Now, they usually leave people out like auxiliary positions and principals and things like that. It's actually Representative James Tallarico, a Democrat in the Texas House who represents District 50 near Austin. Okay. I thought it was Dan Crenshaw too. Maybe he was supporting it.
Right. I was a little confused because, I mean, on the federal level, teacher salaries are not, you know, controlled or like managed or decided. I thought that was on the state level, and yeah, it turns out to be the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, my question for bills like this, it looks great. However, if So my district right now is dealing with a deficit, like where our budget is in the negative millions of dollars, like over $40 million still. So they're making cuts. And right now, this is the season where everybody finds out if they have a job for next year or not, or if they have to switch from one position into a different position that they really are not qualified for potentially. And so there's a lot of shifting going on and a lot of budget cuts. So my question is, like, 80% of a district's budget it's going directly to teachers and healthcare. That all the other stuff takes care of all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if we're already in a deficit for our district, and I guess I should be looking at the wider, spectrum of Texas, maybe there are some rural areas. Cost of living is not as much because housing is not as much. So it's all relative, right? Maybe they should have a little bit more salary in their budget if they're not where we are here, and in the bigger cities or the suburbs of a big city. If you're going to tell me that I have to have $15,000 more per employee per teacher, and we have 80,000 students in our district, and we have I don't know how many workers we actually have, how many teachers. We're trying to cut right now. If you increase by 15,000 per teacher, are you going to foot the bill permanently? Because we get money from the state and potentially some money from the federal level, but where's the money going to come from next year? So if this money is coming from the surplus, where's it going to come from next year? Is there going to be a surplus next year? You have to think about the longevity of this decision. It sounds good, and the Democrats love to make things sound good.
Yeah.
And give out more and give out more money, and people are like, oh, yay, but not thinking about the ramifications later on. What's going to happen 5 years from now? You're still going to have to increase teacher salaries based on their number of years that they've worked. So I'm all for pay raises and reallocating money if that's going to be a permanent fixture. But if it's not, don't even bring it to the table, because it's not feasible for the districts. You're going to have less people working and more children needing help, especially with the deficits that they're having with with the whole COVID and learning online and everything. You're not going to be able to pay for the aides to come in and help that class that has several kids in that one class that need additional assistance. You're not going to have the funds for that if all you're doing is paying more money to the teachers. It's going to be a lot of more struggle on the teachers because they are not going to have that additional help, So I don't know exactly the full details of all of the bill, but I saw that I was like, wait a second. We have to kind of think these things through. And I think
right. Well, but thankfully, at least it's probably not going to pass and not likely to get the votes or even have a signature.
Mm-hmm. And they did have a law back in 2019 that gave Texas teachers a pay raise. And I remember that because we got a little bit of a raise. And you should get a raise across the board. Like, everybody gets raises. I mean, my husband, his contract, they negotiate every few years to what's your raise going to be for the next year, or things like that. I mean, everybody should get an increase that's also helpful to kind of keeping up with the inflation. So, but it's actually House Bill 1548 is what's called. It also proposes a 25% pay increase for support staff, schools such as nurses, cafeteria workers, counselors, and bus drivers. Again, when 80% of your budget goes to teacher salary and benefits, then you only have 20% of your budget to go for all of the other things, electricity, busing, and all that. So you have to be really careful. I'm going to go look up that bill and actually read it, because I should have done that before the show, but
no worries. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. I mean, one person did say if we don't see significant increases in school funding, to actually pay for that, a public education system in the state of Texas will continue to deteriorate. And I can kind of agree with that. And it does say that it's likely to face opposition from Republican lawmakers focused on using the budget surplus to target property tax relief, which I think that property tax relief, if you don't have kids in schools, that's your best bet. You're going to cover everybody who has housing here and lives here in the state of Texas. You're going to reach a lot more people. So I think he's just kind of catering to those teacher unions and teachers, because teachers do want to make a little bit more, or a lot more. I would tell you, though, I was in Florida, and I mean, this was several years ago before I got my job here in Texas, but teachers down in Florida at the time that I was living there, you only made like $34,000 a year. And this was in early 2000s. And you did get good benefits back then, but I think across the board we were getting good benefits that were not, extremely high in cost. Like now it's like $7,000 or $8,000 a year for people on average. But you had classrooms of 28 kids. Like the classroom sizes in Florida, it's not like Texas. Texas is 22, which is really good. So hopefully that doesn't change. But increasing in Texas, teacher salaries, because you have a surplus this year, is not going to be a longevity program unless you're able to reallocate those funds for those teachers and to give those districts.
Right.
But anyway, I think that might be it for tonight. Oh, we do have an announcement.
About the potluck, right?
Yes. So we have a potluck. Generally we meet once a month. We haven't met in a little while, so we are going to have our meeting and potluck. So we always have an agenda. We have speakers who come and talk from other groups too, and share what they're doing, because collectively we are really working toward just making sure that we keep our liberties and freedoms. Same thing, right? But that's going to be at the 1500 South Dairy, Ashford Road, Suite 335 in Houston. That's going to be this Sunday from 4. 4 o'clock is when we start our meeting. That usually takes a little bit. We get input from everybody. The FMAG leadership team will be there. We'll have some other people come and speak as well. Potluck, bring something to eat or a side dish, something to drink. And we'll be doing that at 6 o'clock right after our meeting. So we hope to see you there. If you need more information, you can email us. And I have that here. You can contact us here at info@freedommattersgroup.org, or I think we need to take that off there, but because we're not really reporting CRT, I think that's some other groups too now. But definitely reach out to us at info@freedommattersgroup.org if you have any questions, and go to our website. You could donate there for our causes and things like that. So
yeah, awesome, cool. And with that, we will wrap up the show, and say thanks as always for tuning in, and looking forward to see you for episode 69.
Yep, we'll see you sometime in the month of March.
Indeed. Okay, good night, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.